Hey folks, Jonathan here. I wanted to do a little update on the our rat rod build. We're getting ready to pull this transmission out. This is a new process, and we're hoping, and no guarantees, but we're going to pull this out. And I know that they run the two bolts that are close together on the side, and I've seen this on a lot of other transmissions, but there's another place on down lower to run the other pattern. And we are going to pull this out, and we've got to pull this drop box off, and I'll show you what's in there when I get it apart. But we are going to try to put in this, which is a 3-speed with overdrive, and as you can see, some people might call it a 4-speed, but I mean it's 3-speed with overdrive. And this is what we're going to run in our rat rod. Now this is out of an 88 Ford with a 306 cylinder, and I'm getting ready to yank this apart and see if this is going to fit, and so we'll let you know here shortly. Well, now we all know what drove it. Look at a big triple row chain here. A little play in it, but I'm all right. We'll have to see how we can get this we can get that transmission backed out of there, and then we'll be able to see what shaft and splines on it, and throw it bearing, and cross your fingers, hope that it's all right without having to make a bunch of stuff. But we'll see. All right, show you more. Okay folks, we're going to try to pull this nut off. I'm sure it's going to be splined just like a regular transmission, but I've got a inch and a half socket, 3/4 drive. It's not an impact, so don't try this at home. Got my big 1-inch impact, and I want to show you how to run that. I got a 1/2-inch hose going to the impact from a 5-gallon cheater tank, and what I've got is, I've got 3/8 line running from my compressor, and it's really not enough to run that big gun, so I just run a little cheater tank with a piece of, that's 1/2-inch hydraulic hose, and it helps out, gives it a lot more power. But I usually don't have too much trouble with stuff like this. That's a pretty good gun. It's a cheap gun from Harbor Freight, about the cheapest you can get, but they'll definitely break a bolt, that's for sure. I got it, no problem. Okay, we got all the bolts out. Transmission's ready to come out. Well, it looks like we're going to have to do some changing. Okay folks, I slid the transmission up inside there and learned something real quick. Even centered, the bolt pattern don't mix. So I did some measuring. I measured the inside of this, it was 5 1/8, and went back to a bell housing for a Chevrolet, measured it, it was 5 1/8. Measured the height on the holes, everything's right for a Chevrolet. And I think that these two, this hole and then this outside hole, will actually bolt to a Chevrolet, because this one's kicked out. So it looks like we're going to have to change out the transmission, use a different one instead of that Ford. And it's my fault. I assumed, because that was an aluminum top new process, that it was Ford. I don't remember Chevrolet using the aluminum top new process on their trucks, but I could be wrong. But assuming that's what happens. But what we're looking at now, I've got a NV4500 I really don't want to use. I didn't want the granny gear. I've got an old 3-speed. I may end up using the 3-speed, and if we use it, we'll get a new floor shift. Just run the old school style floor shifter, and I don't want to get a used one because a lot of them's got wear on them. And let me see. If we use a Chevrolet clutch in this, and I can get just about any size Chevrolet clutch, that's not a problem, and use this original pressure plate, I'll have to probably use the original throwout bearing out of this, so I may have to bush it to fit the you know, the shaft on the transmission, the front nose shaft, and which wouldn't be a problem either. But either way, I'll have to make a pilot bushing. But you know, I can still use the Ford transmission. It just takes a lot more work, a lot of drilling, tapping, bolting, and you know, this is a deal where we don't have a lot of time, and you know, I really don't want to spend any money on this deal, because the more money I spend, the more it gets into the money that goes to the Shriners. And you know, this Ford transmission I didn't have to buy it, so you know, it's not a loss in any way. But I've got a 64 Chevrolet pickup I bought for parts. It's got a good 3-speed in it, and I think we'll get it out. And what we can do is get it matched up and in here, and then if for some reason I can come up with a T5 Borg Warner, or even old Saginaw 4-speed or something, it'd be nice, and we'll go to it. But that's the way it goes. You know, agony of defeat, I guess. I assumed that it was Ford. Should have known better than to assume that, but that's the way it goes. And if you look, maybe we'll see. You know, we got the old bell housing mounts. They didn't use them; they bolted in here. But we're probably going to end up using this style mounts, just letting the transmission hang back. Now the 64, somebody's changed it over. It does have a rear cross member in it, where most of the old ones had that same mount pattern. But you know, whatever we've got to do on the Ford, we'll do. It's not a big deal. We're going to do it today of the build, but I've got to get all this ready. I can't, you know, if you start running into stuff like this the day of the build, then you know, you're not going to get finished. So that's why I'm trying to get everything ready. And still got to make my oil lines for this turbo and see if it gets any boost. I've got another turbo, a smaller one, if for some reason this one's too big and I don't get enough, you know, the boost I want to get out of it. We've got something we can work with, and then I want to get it out, of course, get it pulled out of this unit and get it ready to set in the truck the day of the build. And I'll show you something else I picked up. Okay, picked up some rims and tires. These are the old, what we used to call chrome reverse. It looked like a stock rim, or a lot like a stock rim. It takes the inside cap, and I may or may not have some caps for this, but either way it don't matter. These are N50 15 bias ply, wide tires, tires in real good shape. A few little cracks, but nothing major at all in them, and this is what we're going to run on the back of the truck. And I've got two rims here, but they're a little wider than I want, so I think I'm going to run stock Ford rims on the front. We'll just paint them red too, but them big 50s will look good on it. And we've got a stack we're going to put on it the day of the build. This is going to go behind the cab, and of course come up and we'll get it welded on there. But that'll come out behind the cab, and we're going to pipe it in. I've got pipe and elbows and stuff, and we'll have to do all the welding and fabricating on that, but we'll get it in. And but that's the update on the rat rod. That's where I stand as of right now, and I'm going to get this issue figured out. And I'm running a clutch master cylinder with a slave cylinder on this. So what I'll do is go ahead and get the slave cylinder. I'll make some brackets up and get it set up and ready, and that way the day of the build, when we set it in, all we got to do is run the lines. That truck originally had, you know, a hydraulic clutch on it, so we'll put a new clutch master cylinder on it on it the day of the build. Excuse me. And we'll put it on there and get it bled out, and we'll have a clutch and be ready there. So that'll make it pretty simple. I mean, you got to simplify things if you're going to do them quick. This bell housing here don't unbolt like a regular bell housing. I thought maybe it had bolts from the other side, but it don't. It actually, you're going to have to remove all this or pull the engine up out either way, and drop the clutch pressure plate out the bottom. And there's actually a cover on the bottom where it comes out and through. But you know, like I said, when you're messing with something industrial and then you're trying to hook it up to something that's, you know, regular non-commercial vehicle, you know, transmissions and stuff like that, you know, you're gonna run into stuff like this, and but it's not a big deal. You know, we expected this. You know, stuff's just not ever gonna bolt together perfect. If it does, there's probably something wrong with it. But anyway, I haven't set the date yet for the build. We're gonna shoot for about a month from now, and but I will let everybody know the date, you know, as soon as I know. And you know, I've running a little bit behind on getting everything ready, but it's not a problem. That's why I don't want to set a date, because you never know what's going to happen or what's going to go on. And I'm going to do another video on the turbo and show everybody how to turn the fuel up on a CAV injector pump. I don't know if anybody's familiar with one, but it's just a rotary pump, and they're pretty easy to change the fuel on. You know, a lot of them seem to be a pain, but these is not bad. So we've got to get a little bit of black smoke out of it anyway. And we hadn't made decisions on the radiator or anything like that yet. I'm going to do some measuring to see if I was to set these down on the stock cross member, if our oil pan is going to clear our I-beam front axle. You know, we don't need it hitting. You know, if not, we may have to raise the engine and transmission up a little bit, which we don't want to do. We're going to try to keep from having to cut the floor, but I mean, comes the day of the build, we're going to do what we got to do to get her done. So, alright, well, I appreciate everybody watching, and you know, just keep your eye out on the video, and I'll let everybody know what date we're going to do the build. And if anybody's got any questions about, you know, if they're wanting to come or local, go ahead and do it in the comments on this video, and I'll make sure and get back to you. And you know, leave me an email address or something, and I'll explain to you, you know, what we're doing and how many people we're going to be able to do. And you know, we're everybody's welcome to come, but I mean, you know, you can only fit so many people working on one vehicle, so we're going to split it up on corners, I guess. But we will we'll get it. All right, until next time, bye.